Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. I am delighted to be joined by the very, very talented Rahi Hasan with their fantastic movie 35, wonderful documentary. But for those that haven't seen it, let's take a look at the clip.
I've never been comfortable with the way societal labels dictate how we're treated. Thus, I want to discover more about my identity in ways that go beyond all the labels that are imposed on me. The traits that have stayed most true to me my whole life are those associated with my astrological placements.
Rahi, I'm so happy to have this conversation with you. Welcome to New Filmmakers LA.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Thank you for bringing your film to us. Honestly, it was such a joyous experience to have your film at the film festival, have an audience to get to experience your journey that you have making this film. But for those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
So 35 is a very personal film. I think the intention really came from it being a film for personal healing. And it is a film about me going back to Bangladesh, where I'm from, after 19 years to find my birth certificate. And the birth certificate would reveal and confirm my astrological birth chart. And that is important to me because I talk about that in the film, that there are so many different labels have been put on me as an immigrant, as a queer Muslim, and, you know, all these politicized identities. And I wanted to, go through this process of making this film to really explore, if those labels did not exist, what is the core of my identity. And I really connect with my astrological identity of being a triple water sign. And I talk more about that in the film. So that's, in a nutshell, kind of what the film is me really discovering myself and exploring my identity through this film.
Well, listen, thank you so much for sharing your personal journey, with us because it's very brave to take it upon on board yourself, but then to share it with the world, that's an extra layer and level. And I think that your film will inspire and influence and educate so many. So well done. And by the way, your family just delightful. They're so lovely. I was like, oh, Rory's got the best family. Like really, really. How was it for you, Rory, going back after 19 years? How was that for you?
I think there's twofold to it.
Hmm.
One, of me getting my green card, right?
Yeah.
And that sort of changing my immigration status. And this might be a weird parallel or example or analogy to share, but I have heard folks that, after they gave birth, they miss being pregnant, even though it was really, really difficult process. And so I think it was this, I have cultivated a community in my life with folks that identify of being immigrants or like being undocumented, right? And so I think when I got my green card, I had this moment of like, oh my gosh, am I not part of that community anymore? And, as much as obviously it is such a struggle, right? And it is a dream of so many millions of people in this country to be able to adjust their status, right? So there was that interesting experience that like caught me off guard. Um, and then, I definitely held this feeling of privilege being able to go back home where, my community, so many of them are not able to go back, right? So it is a dream to so many, and it was a dream of mine. All of my like immediate family were here in the United States, but my extended family were back home that I have not seen them for that long, right? My childhood friends from middle school that I have stayed in touch with, I have not seen in so long. So there was definitely this aspect of reunion, meeting these people that I love so dearly and only have seen, like caught up with their life, and they have caught up with my life through the internet. But also like I think I just knew that it's, sometimes when some experiences you experience for the first time, that can nothing can replace that,
Yeah.
right? So it was that, like, what my eyes experienced when I landed and like looked around, I will never forget that experience. Um, yeah, I literally felt like I was in a dream. Everything just felt like, is this real?
Yeah.
So I was there initially. I had a full-time job at the time at the Center for Documentary Studies, and it was a really like not the most convenient time. So I had only booked my ticket for 1 week. And then I was able to extend it for 2 weeks. But the entire time that I was there, it really, I think I was asking that question, is this real? It's all like I had to pinch myself.
No, most definitely. My goodness me. I mean, especially, 19 years is a long time. It's like your adult life living here and then going back to experience it and seeing it with new eyes and maturity, etc. Wow, it's incredible. I thought the way that I think there's so much in your film that I think maybe we'll be surprised at, but also like just also as a person, I mean, your triple water sign, I love it. I love it. I love it. Right. Like, and I love that that was part of like your personal discovery you wanted to experience, but also this insane value that actually is behind a birth certificate, down to the date, the time, and then how much we take that for granted. And I
Mhm.
think you really showcase that in your own personal story and just really
Mhm.
find out where yours is and where it was. Was that something you kind of wanted to bridge to your audience? Because I thought you articulated that so well for anyone out there to not take that for granted. And there are also other people that are in your situation too.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to be honest, maybe I didn't think about that piece when I was like writing the script or, making the film. Because honestly, like the process was very much like internal and self-reflecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like for me, I yeah, like sorry, that question was so good, I think.
Oh
Um
no, no, not at
yeah,
all. My
I'm
goodness.
yeah, I'm thinking that like I think like I have become so used to obstacles and struggles and having like roadblocks that it was almost seemed normal that, oh yeah,
Yeah,
of course I don't have access to my birth certificate. Of
yeah,
course I don't have the thing that I that will like confirm what I want to know.
yeah,
Um, and so now that I think about it, like, and especially when I see my film as an audience, I I do see there are so many things um that we do take for granted,
yeah.
including, having access to your birth certificate. And that also makes me think about like, even just migration history, how much of that is not even for folks that are like born here, right?
Yeah,
Like South Asian folks from Bangladesh, from
yeah,
India, Pakistan, like the history of South Asian migration is not something that's very available, like in textbooks or
yeah.
like is not archived.
Right.
Yeah, so that's also like I think folks that have access to their ancestral history in this country is also a privilege.
Absolutely. And I did love the part in there where you put for your future children, which was just so special. And I think you've left a beautiful, wonderful legacy in there. Mixed with that, and also bringing in your own family. Now, subjects in documentaries are tough enough as it is, but when you're including yourself and your family, it's kind of a little bit extra layers going on there. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember because there was another like the middle part of the film where you kind of see that whole journey of the day of the trial, when I get my green card. So I actually was put in removal proceeding, and I had to go through series of hearings, which led up to like a final trial where the judge decides whether I get my green card or not. So I knew that that was a very like important day in my life, and I literally did not know what was going to happen
Yeah.
um until the judge literally just like, announced the decision. And so that is something that I obviously was important to me, but I probably didn't realize how much it impacted my parents
Yeah.
until the day of, there are so I think my intention for documenting my family um was like, yeah, to really for all of us to be able to like look back and reflect
Hmm.
what we have and what we went through.
Hmm.
um in terms of the actual documenting, I think it was okay. I think I will talk more about like the film I'm working on right now. I feel like that's more challenging than
Hmm.
this film was, because I think there was this crisis, hanging over our head. So, for parents
Yeah.
to have different like I don't know, nothing else mattered. Everyone
Yeah.
was just like so nervous, right? It was this
Yeah.
everything was that situation was much bigger than anything else.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think in terms of just like the actual process of production went pretty smoothly. Everyone was very accommodating. And like I think
Good.
both my parents were, really sympathetic toward me and were just like, oh, okay, Rahi wants to make a film. Yeah, whatever we can do to support them. So that was their kind of gesture of like showing support. Be like, yeah, whatever you want to do. You want us to be on camera. Like, yeah, we'll
I
do
love
that.
it. I love
Yeah,
it.
and there was a moment, after the hearing when we're in the car and we're going back. I remember I had a friend, Robert Pluma, who was documenting that day, interviewing my dad and asking how he was feeling. And he was saying that, he feels like he has gotten a new life. It was he was like reborn or something, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Looking at kind of my self-discovery in my film where I'm also like, you know, um um yeah, sort of like in this new birth or like new
Yeah.
life that I'm experiencing. So yeah, there were just like really profound moments that probably would not have happened had I not documented them. It might have been
Absolutely.
probably would have been awkward for me to ask, or if someone else didn't ask, like, how are you feeling? Tell me more about it. But I think the film really gave the excuse to go deeper into those conversations.
And you certainly did that, and I think I mean, it's such. I think not everybody realizes what one goes through and the challenges that some people experience with the green card, the whole process. It's really extremely tough, and especially over the course of the years, it's kind of not got much easier. So I'm just happy for you and your family now. But you did allude to the fact that what you're working on next. So tell us what's coming up.
So currently I am working on my feature-length film called Dhupshika, which is basically an artist name that my mom has chosen for herself.
Hmm.
Um, and Dhup means incense and Shika means flame. And the way my mother kind of sees that word as a metaphor to her life, where she is burning herself to spread fragrance to the people around her.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very deep. And the film is about basically following her poetic journey, how she has carved a liberatory path for herself through poetry, coming from all the struggles that she has come from.
Yeah.
Um, and she has like built a huge collection of work and published books, and she has done all of that on her own.
Wow.
and created this cultivated this really beautiful community of diaspora Bangladeshi poets from all across the globe just through Facebook, and created her own live show. And she's still, kind of if she has not claimed herself as an artist and created this identity for herself, she would be called a housewife.
Mhm.
So it is a really inspirational story for me, not just because she's my mother, but as a Muslim immigrant woman in her 60s, being able to really redefine and carve out this artistic identity for oneself, I think is such a fascinating story. So that's what the story is about. I did have plans to expand 35.
Mhm.
And I still plan to do that. But I am putting that on hold because I think a very raw reality of parents getting older. And I just feel like my mother's story is needs to be in the forefront right now.
I love that, and I love that you're celebrating stories within your family because there's so many amazing stories within our own circles, and I love that your mom is now getting celebrated as well as you. So this is really 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 great. I think what you spoke about earlier about just some of the challenges that you've had to overcome, facing, currently facing, have had to face. I feel like Rahi, you can do anything now. You're limitless in all of your wonderful talents and capabilities when you've overcome so much. But for our audience, our filmmakers out there, do you have any advice or anything that you go by that helps you in your filmmaking world, in your life, in you as an artist?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say now that especially I'm really diving deep into this feature length film, which is, I feel like the process is slightly different than making short films. So right now we're really focusing on, just developing the story and developing the film and, applying for grants and things like that. And there was a point where I'm asking myself that, you know, um, you ask all these questions as you're filling out these applications. Who's your audience, right? And you ask yourself, who are you catering this to? And one of the other questions that you ask yourself is, um, or I guess sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place a little bit, but whether you are suffering from imposter syndrome or not, I think it is very normal for creatives to doubt your process sometimes, and you might ask yourself, is this story good enough? Is there a film in there? Is it a story that people would want to hear? Is it a story people are going to care about? And so then I asked myself, um is this story good enough according to whose standard?
Yeah.
Right. So I do want to encourage emerging filmmakers to ask whose standard. So what I am telling myself is that, you know, I in a very, I guess, a very tactical advice would be that ask yourself, who are the filmmakers you look up to? What
Yeah.
are the stories that really inspire you? What are the stories that really move you, right? Who are those filmmakers? Who are um whose work that you feel like their process that aligns with your filmmaking process, right?
Yeah.
And then I think then if you can get resources and access to probably being mentored by folks like those, that's amazing. But then my answer is, when I'm asking is it good enough, to whose standards? For me, if it's good enough to the folks that I look up to their standards. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Or else it's a very broad question. And you can get caught in this cycle of doubting, your story or your film. And I think you cannot make a film or cannot move forward in the process if you don't have faith in your story, you
That's
know?
so true.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And only you can tell that story when it's your story, right? So, no, that's actually advice we don't hear very often, but I think we should remind ourselves of it more, to be honest with you. So well, listen, wherever you deliver us next, we're ready for it. Thank you so much, Rahi, for joining us. Thank you for 35. Thank you to your lovely family, and thank you for sharing something so personal to you as well. And welcome to our new filmmakers family. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Danny. And thank you so, so much to New Filmmakers LA and the entire team. I have had a blast in the festival, and it was such a privilege and such an honor to be able to screen my film to an audience in LA that I loved. And so y'all are doing great work. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Oh, thank you, Rahi. Thank you, everybody.